ACGam, short for ACGam, asked if I'd be interested in taking a look at a few of their items, and I will admit I have an unreasonable and kind of disgusting attraction for all things small and cute. Don't read too much into that. And here we see the first item, the AG6X, a 60% budget-friendly mechanical keyboard coming in at 560 grams, sporting 61 keys on the US layout, a 3 millisecond response time, full rubber feet, full key rollover, Otemu blue switches rated for 50 million clicks that sound a little something like this. And 8 modes accessible in the software for the white LED backlighting, including, and I quote, all light, which is basically a static effect, breathing, a fairly self-explanatory fade in and out, monkey serpentine, which is kind of like the snake effect, but the monkey is off doing his own business elsewhere. It's a monkey business joke, haha. Full screen entertaining diversions, which is fairly distracting both on the keyboard and in the software since they don't look the same. Single light, a type lighting per key effect. Suspension transform, which appears to be transformed into the next effect in the software, and actually looks more like a diagonal meet-in-the-middle wave effect that I'm not creative enough to appropriately title myself. Flow, which is fairly unself-explanatory. And ripples, essentially a type lighting ripple effect, as the name might imply. The keyboard also has built-in lighting profiles that can be cycled with function and O. You get almost the same things, minus full-screen entertaining diversions, and plus a type lighting per row effect. And then function and P turns the lights off if you're a fuddy-duddy. In the box, you get a detachable braided 1.6 meter USB-C cable with a Velcro strap, a keycap puller, cup coaster, and instruction manual. In order to fit a whole lot of stuff into not a lot of package, I know quite a bit about that, we see a bunch of functions buddied up with the main keys, like function keys with the number row, media controls from Q to Y, lighting controls from brightness adjustments to effect cycling on U through P, home, end, page up, page down, etc. in this right region, a Windows lock feature, and arrow keys on this little group of clickers. On the topic of keys with many a function, the software allows for macro creation, though not what I would consider on the fly as advertised. Over on the macro tab, you can record a fairly decent amount of commands like keystrokes and left and right mouse clicks, but not mouse movement or any mouse functions further than that. If you get an error when you try to go fast, it's probably because the minimum delay allowed is 5 milliseconds. You can edit delays with the button on the left, add delays or more commands with the insert button on the bottom, delete actions with the icon that bears my spirit animal, that's a trash can, and reorder commands with the 2 arrows on the right side. If you think you're clever and try to adjust the commands to leave the delays out, the macro won't execute. I tried. Once you're finished, you can rename it, start a new macro, delete it if it's a bitter disappointment, sorry mom, or export it to be imported at a later time. After that's all done, boogie over to the custom tab. Here, you can actually apply your macro by clicking on a key, going to the macro tab on the side, selecting your macro in the drop-down, the start and stop conditions, and the number of times it loops. After that, click the check mark at the bottom, then apply towards the bottom right. I actually needed a GPS to navigate the software. If you're looking for something a little more micro, then the other options on the side will allow you to bind simpler commands like single keys, launch programs, or disable buttons outright. Once you're done there, you can add, export, import, or delete your configurations, their term for profiles, which can be bound to certain programs by enabling this box up top. Anything saved to the keyboard is stored on onboard memory, so you can connect this to another computer and use your macros without requiring the software. And then, if you hate everything you've done up to this point, holding function and tab for 5 seconds will give you a reset. This does not work for poor life decisions. I tried. Speaking of poor life decisions, there are just a few things about the keyboard that I'm not so fond of. While the software gets the job done, it's not the most efficient. For example, aside from completely resetting the keyboard or setting a key to itself, there is no apparent way that I can see to just delete a macro from a binding. What's more, having to confirm my macro selection in addition to applying it feels like a waste of a move when I should be able to just apply it and be on my merry way. Next thing that bugs me a little bit, some of the lighting effects are not symmetrical, so if you've got a bit of OCD, it may or may not tilt you in the wrong way. The next thing I noticed was the edge of the V key. This may be an issue specific to my model, but the key isn't consistent with the rest in the sense that it sort of catches my finger when I'm coming in from the left. It's not sharp, but the amount of edge is reminiscent of my time in high school, and most of college, and a bit of after college. The keyboard has a bit of a lip around the perimeter, so if it tries smack talking you and you gotta run some soap through its mouth, cleaning it can be a bit tedious compared to keyboards without the lip. You know, the floating key kind. But seriously, don't put soap in it, it's not water resistant. Lastly, the white backlighting is just okay. It's not super bright and there's a bit of a yellow tint on the keycaps, but it'll get the job done in a dark setting. Aside from that, the AG6X is a neat little thing, sporting some cute conveniences like a blinking Windows key when you've hit the maximum or minimum brightness. It feels reliable, solid, and good to type on if you're into blue switches, and for $35 US, the lack of RGB is an acceptable compromise. If that's your thing, they've got the AG109R for about $20 more. So sure, it's got a few shortcomings, but as a budget-focused peripheral meant for LAN parties and traveling, it makes for a decent offhand weapon for you keyboard warriors. And so that's all I have to say about that, and on a somewhat related side note, Amazon has this influencer store kind of thing, and mine is linked in this video's description. It'll have things that I generally recommend and have either used or reviewed, or technically both, in the past, and I'll be adding to the list as time goes on. If you think I deserve a bit more support at no additional cost to you, go check it out sometime. I'd appreciate the crap out of you for it. So, like, dislike, comment, subscribe, share, leave me questions if you got them. Thanks for watching. My name is Steven, and I am ALittleDIMM. Bye-bye. Breathing, a fairly self-explanatory fade in and out. I forgot to minimize this, so I'm really mad. Breathing, a fairly self-exploratory. No, that's not right. Full screen entertaining diversions. Yeah, a diagonal meet in the middle wave effect that I'm not creative enough. Creative. The software allows for macro creation, though not what I would consider. My thumb's correct. On the topic of keys with many a function, the software allows for macros. Yeah. If you get an error when you try to go fast, it's probably because the if you get an error when you try to go fast, it's probably because the minimum delay It's probably because the minimum delay allowed is 5 milliseconds. Oh god, a 5-second delay minimum would be awful. Find simpler commands like single keys, launch programs, or just There is no apparent way that I can see to just delete a macro from a key binding. Yeah, aside from completely resetting the keyboard or setting a The last thing I noticed was the edge of the V key. That's not the last thing I noticed, and you gotta run some soap through its mouth. Cleaning it can be a bit tedious compared to keyboards without the lip. Oh man, and have either used or reviewed in the past.